So good afternoon. My name is Gregory Brun. I'm one of the board directors of the Monterey Friends of C.G. Jung. I'm also a winemaker, and during my free time, I'm also a photographer. I would say that looking in the rearview mirror, all my career, all this time, I have been chasing a fascinating concept, which is the concept of terroir. So I'm going to talk about that today and introduce this series of images that evoke this concept. So for those who are not familiar, there is a very objective definition formulated by the International Organization of Vine and Wine. Vitivinicultural terroir is a concept which refers to an area in which collective knowledge of the interactions between the identifiable physical and biological environment and applied vitivinicultural practices develops, providing distinctive characteristics for the products originating from this area. Terroir includes specific soil, topography, climate, landscape characteristics, and biodiversity features. In fact, terroir is a quite recent concept in history, no foreign to the idea of tradition, which is another paradoxically quite recent concept. Terroir and tradition are as recent as they are both mental constructs. These constructs help us to apprehend more comfortably objects such as wine, underlining some aspect, non-geographic components, historical practices, and culture woven on a large foundation of Christian symbolism. Here on this picture, the way of the cross on the steep slopes of the famous vineyard of Moselle in Germany. To better remove other components, such as rapid change of winemaking techniques, climate change. This is this objectifying combination of concepts that I would like to oppose to the more subjective realization of experiences made possible by the very existence of a medium such as wine. I enjoy the idea of comparing a glass of wine with a teleportation machine. When the magic occurs, the nose above the rim of a glass, or literally walking the vineyard, the encounter is nothing short of luminous. The experience of a place, which we could describe as the encounter with an archetypal genius loci, is an encounter with something other. One can read in Homer's Odyssey, "I will tell Dionysus, the son of glorious Semele, how he appeared on a jutting headland by the shore of the fruitless sea. Presently there came swiftly over the sparkling sea Tyrrhenian pirates on a well-decked ship. When they saw him, they made signs to one another and sprang out quickly, and seizing him straightway, put him on board their ship exultingly. For they thought him the son of heaven-nurtured kings. They thought to bind him with rude bonds, but the bonds would not hold him, and the withes fell far away from his hands and feet, and he sat with a smile in his dark eyes." Coming back to the slope of Moselle, a materialization of this encounter are these small shell rocks carrying this word of love, hope, and expression of gratitude. You can find those carved stones just above the vineyard on these very steep slopes. And imagine the pilgrimage that may take place from time to time. If photographing it doesn't suffice, the closest example that comes to my mind are these hands projected on the wall of the Chauvet Cave in France. And at that point of the talk, I can't help but expanding the comparison of terroir winemaking to photography itself. Like Terroir mental construct, the appreciation of a photo is made possible by the collective knowledge of the interactions between the photographer techniques, the camera medium, and the subject. For example, the fact that this photo is about wine terroir and that its eerie aspect is amplified by the wide aperture setting on this peculiar lens, that working the contrast on the upper part is accentuating the centrality of the stone architecture in the middle, can be a common understanding to the trained eye. Even if we feel that there is more to it, a sort of profane approach that values the rational and objectifies is at play in photography. And this is foundational for Roland Barthes when he points out the following paradox. Quote, "The same century invented history and photography, but history is a memory fabricated according to positive formulas, a pure intellectual discourse which abolishes mythic time. And the photograph is a certain but fugitive testimony, so that everything today prepares our race for this impotence, to be no longer able to conceive duration, affectively or symbolically. The age of the photograph is also the age of revolutions, contestations, assassinations, explosions, in short, of impatiences of everything which denies ripening." Ripening. Back to winemaking again. Images of bottles aging in a cellar, remembrance of old stories. Not through wine back labels or the wine tasting O2 books, but via the ephemeral experience of a smell. Coming back to Homer and Dionysus sitting on the pirate's ship. Soon strange things were seen amongst them, and all at once a vine spread out both ways along the top of the sail, with many clusters hanging down from it, and a dark ivy plant twined about the mast, blossoming with flowers, and with rich berries growing on it. As photographies, wine is not a mere object. It's a transcendent medium. In both cases, feelings are directly related to the interaction between subject and object. In the absence of feeling, the subject becomes an object. Therefore, feelings have an external nature in relation to the nature of the external universe. From this angle, feelings are equivalent to this included third that is central in transdisciplinary theories. I illustrated here just very simply the central point of transdisciplinarity concept with the different levels of reality. I represented just two here. The first one being the object-subject, and here in this example, we're talking about the wine as object and the subject as us, experiencing. And the second level of reality being feelings themselves. According to the Romanian philosopher Stefan Lupasco, there is a cosmological conflict between subject and object. And the magic that we perceive is grounded in mystery because the mystery of mysteries is precisely this absolute, indisputable reality of affective states. We can penetrate this mystery, as Lupasco suggests, in a magical way, through a jumping causality. The magic psyche, with its magical shadows, these shadows penetrated by the ontological mysteries of emotionality. Carrying the bias of reading too much Jung literature, I believe that both winemaking and photography are a marriage of the intellect and the emotional. Suzanne Roland from Pacifica would have said that it's about the marriage of Ariadne and Dionysus, looking for the entrance of the labyrinth, behind the oculus of the camera obscura, or the circle of a wine glass. following a thread leading to the emotional and eventually to something much deeper in the middle of it all. It's in Champagne, in the underground cellar of the Pommery cave. Emerging from the depths of an underground cellar are the archetypal projections of culture and also pure feelings. Emigrating overseas stirred in me a deeper questioning on terroir. This is at this time in my life that I realized the role of the ancestors in terroir. This picture is of a Rumsen village mortar filled after the rain with water, a few miles away from here, in what we call Point Lobos. Gazing into these openings in the ground, this triggered in me a sort of existential questioning. What was emerging from the depths? Looking at these mortars, the idea of terroir was losing its essence. There was no genie in the bottle, just a sort of archetypal amnesia. And this image came to me. It's a picture I took a couple of years ago in nearby a monastery in Provence. Two experiences were colliding, echoing at the phenomenological level. And I wondered, where are the ancestors? According to Jung, the ancestors are, of course, the archetype. They are the psychological ancestors. Beyond the technical definition, this is what terroir is about in the end. Terroir is about remembrance. When images and feeling emerge, we can remember the parts of a world of our own making. So that at this point of the presentation, I may unveil this one. So this image are two photos overlapping. One of a painting representing a grizzly bear being lassoed and tied near the mouth of the Carmel River, nearby. The other one, the photo of the same place, but taken today. For me, this picture symbolizes hubris and the arrogant thinking that ties and boxes. These characters symbolically at work, eliminating parts of the past. Behind the picture frame, I wrote this quote from Paul Oken: "Extension is silent and it has no voice other than our own." That this is where we are. Thank you.
We do have time.
Right.
There's more time.
Yeah, we have time for questions. Anybody want to?
I just wanted to say I appreciate the temporics in this right here, right? Because if I'm seeing it correctly, is that metal? Yeah. So that you can see time here. You can see the slow growth of this tree as it grows around the metal. But I wanted to comment on the photograph on a similar way. A number of years ago, actually, for one of my first GEPSR conferences, I was using somebody basically did a Photoshop of a city in Europe during World War II, and then the city today. And then they also did ones of San Francisco during the Great Earthquake at the turn of the century. Horses, underneath a collapsed building. It's a kind of a very striking photograph. But then also it's overlaid with somebody getting into their Toyota from like 2015. So I was wondering if you could comment a little bit on the temporics that are so present here, and how you're able to concretize time in singular images or singular.
First, what comes to my mind is that as I was trying to express, thinking is there. I'm not all in emotional, and I think when I take a picture, it starts with thinking. The mental is here. It's an integral part of the process, and this marriage of thinking and feeling are important. For me, it actually started with the painting, and then it's about consciously finding the thread that leads to the emotion. And I think in this example, what helped me to find the thread was the physical travel to that location, and the meandering on that location to kind of like almost the way a dozer would do, find the place that where the inspiration is flowing, and then it depends on the picture back to thinking, and you know there is thinking in assembling two pictures, but it's all resonating. It's good doing forth and back.